welcome everybody to this wonderful event, Breaking the Bias. We have over 100 people registered, which I really want to say that's amazing. We're very excited about that. So my name is Sylvia Sampson. I'm the Executive Director of SAVIS. SAVIS is the Sexual Assault and Violence Intervention Services of Halton. We provide free, confidential, 24-hour crisis counseling support, short-term counseling and long-term counseling to survivors of sexual assault and human trafficking. I also want to just give a little bit of a plug that we're looking for board members. So if any of you are interested, please go on to our website, www.savis.ca, to see if you would like to join our board. But again, very excited about this event, the fact that we are collaborating with Halton Women's Place and the Women's Center to present this. So I think it's going to be a wonderful day, a wonderful hour and a half in terms of this session. So first of all, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. Let us acknowledge that together that Halton region stands on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Huron-Wendat, now home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We acknowledge the current treaty holders, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of the land and for those who continue today. It is my pleasure to introduce a singer. She won't be here in person, but we will hear her wonderful and amazing creativity in her song. Layne Harton is a local singer, songwriter, and activist. Layne embodies strength and resilience in all its forms and is passionate about mental health, gender equality, and empowerment. So we will be able to listen to her sing, and I think everyone will be quite amazed to hear her. So thank you very much.
She leaves the room, you make your move. You're on me, disregarding the rules. Ears closed when I ask to stop. I'm in pain, is that not enough? You left me broken and bleeding and bruised. All of me inside and outside is used. I trusted you, but now I'm begging for help. Somebody come pull me out of this hell. I can't sleep without hearing your voice. The nightmares cut me deep, and if I had the choice, I'd go back to a million things different. Scream out the words, screw you. But till then, I tell my innocence I miss you. Doctor tells me he's sorry, take some pills for PTSD. Wanna rip my skin apart, a shower has never made me feel less clean. Teacher moves me to the back of the class as if it would make things better. Everybody loves you, but no one knows the real you. Makes my head hurt. You left me broken and bleeding and bruised. All of me inside and outside is used. I shouldered the burden, then broke mama's heart. Is there a button where I hit restart? I can't sleep without hearing your voice. The nightmares cut me deep, and if I had the choice, I'd go back to a million things different. Scream out the words, screw you. But till then, I tell my innocence I miss you. You are a catastrophe defined. You made a mess of your life. Why'd you have to make one of mine? Ooh. without hearing your voice. Soon the nightmares won't cut me deep. And if I had the choice, I wouldn't go back, wouldn't do a million things different. 'Cause it wasn't my fault, like you made me believe. No, it wasn't my fault, my innocence still belongs to me.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Raina. Hi, everyone. I'm Lori Hepburn. I'm the Executive Director from Halton Women's Place. Thank you so much for joining us on your lunch hour today. Our event, as Sylvia mentioned, is brought to you by the collaboration of Halton Women's Place, SAVIS, and the Women's Center of Halton. We are 3 organizations in the community that work with the common goal of supporting and empowering women who have experienced abuse and violence as we help them as they move forward, embarking on a new life. As you know, the theme of Break the Bias is a call to action, a plea that examines the systems that our society is built upon, but also the systems within ourselves. Today, we are engaging in challenging conversations that confront our own preconceived notions based on gender, race, sexuality, and ability. At Halton Women's Place, we are implementing both themes in the work that we do together with our staff, within our board, our volunteers, and most importantly, with and for the women and children that we serve. We work daily on advocating for gender equality through public education, community outreach, and engagement. Today, we are so grateful to have 3 incredible panelists, Karen, Layne, and Talli, who will share parts of their stories and experiences so that we can all know more, do more, and create a more inclusive and respectful community. Thank you all for being part of this today. And now I'm going to call upon Carm Botso, Manager of Development and Communications at Halton Women's Place, to introduce our panelists.
Hello, everyone. I'm really hoping my puppy doesn't start barking because someone walked by. So I will start this quickly. I'm actually introducing a great friend of mine, our moderator, Jane Allison. It took me probably 3 seconds to think about who I wanted to moderate this and facilitate this. I've known Jane for all of my career, which is over 20 years, and I've always looked up to her for her public relations and communication skills and expertise and just being a wonderful human being. And when she interviewed Jeannie Becker a couple of years ago at one of our events, I just knew, it always stuck in my head how wonderful she was and how wonderful she is. So I thank you, Jane. Jane Allison, if you don't already know, is an award-winning community advocate and communications professional and is the principal of Dovetail Community, a firm devoted to counseling, connecting, and mentoring organizations about community impact and development, as well as PR, communication strategies, and facilitation. She was the manager of community partnerships at the Hamilton Spectator for more than 11 years, after being at the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board for almost 9 years in the role of public relations officer when I met Jane. Jane is a frequent speaker, moderator, and host for events, workshops, and teaching sessions, and has launched 2 podcasts, Side Roads and Tangents. Jane has been named a Canadian Public Relations Society Diamond Jubilee Mentor of the Year. In 2021, Dovetail Community was named the Diamond Level PR firm by the Hamilton Spectator Reader's Choice Awards. It is my absolute pleasure to have Jane here today to moderate this wonderful discussion.
Oh, thank you, Carm. And I think it's just a nice way of saying how, long in the tooth we might be, but it's so great to be here and welcome everyone. So happy to be sharing this day and this time with you, having this really important discussion. So it's truly my honor. And so I'm thankful to be here with you today. I think with our gathering today, we want to really embrace where we are now in our community and our society and continue to build from there. So with International Women's Day 2022, having a theme of breaking the bias, this was the excellent launch pad for today's event. Halton Women's Place recognizes that gender-based violence has led to a whole examination of bias itself. And that's where we're going to have some really good explorations today. You know, we all have biases, whether we acknowledge them or not, right? And our quest for today is to embrace all of our vulnerability in recognizing that bias is a very real factor for all of us, and that we can really have courageous conversations about it, like we are today. So our hope is that today is not a one-time thing, but the start of an ongoing conversation in Halton. Today, we are deeply honored to collaborate with 3 individuals who have not only acknowledged the biases that they have faced, but have broken through barriers to become who they were meant to be. And you will see that very shortly. So I'm going to, with a lot of pride, I'm going to introduce our 3 panelists, and then we're going to dive right in to our discussion. So with more than 25 years experience in the fire service, Chief Karen Roche has served in a variety of progressive ranks in 2 very distinct fire and emergency services, Hamilton Fire, and now as Chief of the Burlington Fire Service. Noting that the City of Burlington is already at the forefront of promoting access, equality, diversity, and human rights through innovative policy, programs, and services, Karen really is committed to contributing in a meaningful way due to her appointments to things like the International Association of Fire Chiefs and the International Diversity Executive Leadership Program, a very long name for a very important organization that really looks at diversity, inclusion, and equity as priorities that will significantly impact and improve culture and acceptance, in fact, in the fire service. Layne, the Auctionista, is someone who combines philanthropy and entertainment, igniting charitable giving and maximizing engagement at every event they are part of. Layne has shared the struggles of how a fear of non-acceptance hindered their success and what it means to be an LGBTQIA+ event professional in a seemingly binary world. As an openly gender non-binary person operating in the male-dominated field of auctioneering, they continue to break down barriers and biases and educate on the language of being an ally to support queer and gender diverse people. Talli Osborne is a motivational speaker and one of Richard Branson's top 10 inspirational people in the world. How's that? Through our conversation, she's going to share her impactful story of overcoming adversity and struggle while growing up in a family unlike any other. Talli now feels she's doing the work she was born to do. And rumor has it that she is about to take possession, not soon enough, frankly, for her happiness, but she's about to take possession of a pretty tricked out vehicle in the near future that will enable her to expand even more horizons. So let's welcome all of our panelists. So thrilled to have you with us. And let's dive right into our discussion, shall we? So I'll start with Karen, I think, and our goal today, folks, is to have a conversation, have it be kind of bold and let it go where it's going to go. We'll start with a few basic questions and then kind of see where they lead. And then there will be time for questions at the end. So keep those going or pop them into the chat function as well. So, but Chief Roche, you've had leadership roles in organizations that really guide policies and working conditions, and that can make critical advances for many people, through addressing bias. How will we know when we've arrived?
Great question. I think that for me, certainly, I will know that we finally have arrived when things like women in the fire service is the norm and not the exception. Every time, I almost cringe when there's news reports about, promotions for women in the fire service, and it just promotes it, but which is a good thing, but also not a good thing, because it really does need to be more the norm. And, we're not there yet, but I do believe that it's happening more frequently, and it should be an everyday occurrence and not just an anomaly.
What's one example where you've really seen a big stride in embracing this, where it is becoming more normalized?
Well, I think in the last probably 10, 15 years, it's becoming more of a viable option for young women. There's a number of different camps that we've offered here in Halton that are for young women to try their hand at different aspects of the fire service career. And I think that we've turned a very, very significant corner. We've had no shortage of people putting their hand up to want to join in on our camps. And they've been highly successful, and not just for the position of firefighter, also for dispatcher and training officer. And there's a whole fire prevention and education. There's a wide range of different positions that are part of the fire service. And it's, like I said, it's really very, it shows well when we run these camps and they're packed, and people are looking for when the next one is going to run. So, I mean, yes, it's tapped into young women when they're in high school, which is really the time to really do that.
Oh, I love that. Just love it. So switching gears a bit, Talli, since, we've talked about this before, but since bias is inherent in all of us to some degree, what do you do to challenge people's assumptions?
Well, for me, I was born this way with no arms, and I'm 3 foot tall. You can't really tell. I look normal height, but I'm 3'5". So I've been judged literally since I was born. I remember being judged as a child and people feeling sorry for me. And the biggest one was pity. And people would feel sorry for me, and they would say, I sometimes feel bad about my life, but you've got it way worse. And I always hated that, because I don't have a horrible life. It's challenging, but you make your life what you want it to be. And I've always made my life awesome. So I kind of, not directly, but I started doing things to show people that I'm confident in my body and I'm confident in who I am. And for example, I started coloring my hair bright colors, and I brought clothes that really accented my body and my figure and my style. And kind of growing up, I wanted to fit in. I was like, don't look at me, don't look at me. And I couldn't fit in, and I couldn't fit in. And it was so frustrating, because I'm like, I'm just like everyone else. Why can't I fit in? And then as I got older, I was like, oh, I'm not like everyone else. Duh. And I started embracing that, and kind of, instead of trying to fit in, trying to stand out, embracing what makes me different and showing the world that I love who I am, instead of people looking at me and feeling uncomfortable, because people are uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. So if I'm not uncomfortable, it makes them feel less uncomfortable.
Yeah. So, I mean, what you're saying is really your authenticity and the work you've done on yourself really makes everything better, including for you.
It does, because I'm confident in who I am, and people can feel that. And for example, I was telling you the story. I have a scooter that I used to get around. And when my parents first got it for me, I was mortified. I was like, oh my God, now you're making it even more different. And I am fully, completely independent. I've been since I was 19 years old, and I wouldn't be that independent without the scooter. And I remember this little kid, when I first moved downtown Toronto, he was like, must suck to have to be in that. And in that moment, I didn't even plan this. I was just like, no, I actually get to zoom around the city and really fast, and I don't have to carry anything. And hearing that come out of my mouth, it was just like, he was like, oh, and he was a little jealous, And now I have all my scooters. I get them custom painted by a graffiti artist in Toronto, and they're all hot pink and purple and lightning bolts, and showing people like, don't pity me for this. This scooter is giving me the independence, and I can have an awesome life. So, and again, when we were talking, I was like, I'm not doing it intentionally for everyone else. I'm just being myself. This is literally what my soul feels like. The way I look in this lightning bolt in this pink room is what I feel on the inside. Oh. And I attract like-minded people now, like positive, wonderful, queer, amazing people that are inspiring, because I'm living my authentic life. So it's pretty cool and like kind of simple, but it's not really that simple.
Well, the simplest stuff isn't necessarily easy, is it? Right. But it's just straightforward.
It's simple, like be yourself, but it's not that easy, because all the people in this group, none of us are like everyone else, like we're very different. And it wasn't easy for us to be ourselves without people judging us.
That's true. And
Well,
we,
still to this day, we'll always be judged for the way we look, unfortunately, but hopefully we can slowly move away from that.
well, and I think it's what you're saying. It's a really beautiful lesson in we kind of teach people how to treat us in a way by what we accept, what we tolerate, and what we put out to other people. So I love that aspect of your story and your awareness. So thank you.
It really
so much.
works. I honestly felt the difference. I felt the difference before when I moved downtown Toronto and I was wearing prosthetic legs and just being someone else. And I'm not kidding. When I stopped wearing those prosthetic legs and I went shopping and I bought clothes that were me, I felt the people around me. I felt it. It was different.
Oh, just love hearing that. Love hearing that. Now, Layne, we've talked a lot about the importance of language, and all of us on this panel today, we were proud to put our pronouns by our names, and some of us for the first time. And so how important is language in breaking the bias?
Jane, it's great to be with you today, and to my esteemed co-panelists, it's an honor to be with you in this moment and for this event. So Jane, yeah, I mean, language is everything, right? It sets the tone. It starts a conversation. So in my world, I am really working towards shifting the language. And let me kind of dig into that a little bit. For those of you who don't maybe know what I do for a living, I'm a performer. I'm on stage multiple times a week. I'm raising millions of dollars for charities, helping improve lives, through donations. And so in that space that I live in, when an MC comes to the podium and welcomes everybody, I am trying to shift the mindset from an introduction or a salutation of good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and shifting that to distinguished guests. Because when we say ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you for me, that doesn't put me in that room. That doesn't necessarily make me feel welcome. So things like using the terms his or hers, shifting that to theirs. Things like guys, shifting that word to folks, and really changing that language so that we are including everyone, however they identify, as part of that moment, as part of that group, and feeling welcome. I want to take it even a step further than that. And I've had occasion where, just like everybody else, we make donations on a charity's website, or, you're filling out some kind of an application, and your options are Dr., Miss, or Ms., or Mr. That doesn't apply. Or what is your first name? And what is your last name? I choose not to use a last name. So, we are pushing a population away. We are pushing a potential donor away who may not feel, you don't know me, you don't know that I exist. And if you really want to know somebody really well, instead of asking them if they're a doctor, Miss, Mrs., or Mr., how about putting a drop down for pronouns? That's when you really, really get to know somebody. Language also can create barriers too, right? And stunt conversations. So, for folks that are, approaching somebody who is non-binary, queer, don't make comments about their appearance. Don't ask inappropriate questions about my hair or my clothes. Remove those old turns of phrase that are transphobic, or homophobic. And I really say to people, before you ask a question, ask yourself if you can ask that question. You know what I'm saying, right? So it's really important to do the work. It's really important. Read those books. Get on that Googler. Educate yourself. You have to do the work to understand. It's not up to us to justify who we are, Why are your pronouns they, them? They is only plural. I can't even tell you how many conversations that I've had. And, you know, just a really friendly, loving reminder that, you know, you don't need to understand the nuances of gender identity to know that each individual person knows who they are better than you will ever, right?
Beautiful.
Can I say something on this topic? I don't know
Of course
if
you
we're
can.
allowed to jump in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so much. So everything you just said, yes, yes, yes. For me, labels, I hate the word hate, but I hate labels. I've hated them my whole life because I've been labeled crippled, handicapped, disabled. And it's like, I've never related to these terms. And to this day, the best one is disabled. And a lot of people in the disabled community or disability community embrace this one. And I've just had a hard time because I don't feel disabled. I feel like I'm very able. I just look different from you. Why am I disabled? I could do more than half the people on this panel, probably, no offense. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not about, I'm only kidding. But it's true. Like I've done a lot of things. And disabled just feels, it's not me. And I'm like, I'm even fighting the disability community because they're like, they don't like that I say, but it's like, it's me. It's, yeah. I can't be, I want to be my authentic self.
You know, building on what Layne said, Talli, what is there a terminology that we should understand and embrace moving forward? You know, is there something differently abled? That's when I've heard.
I just hate them all.
So
I don't know why I can't just be Talli. Like, I don't know. People have always been like what Layne was saying, like, were you in an accident? Like, I can't tell you. And it's like, are you a thalidomide baby? Did your mother take thalidomide? Like, I can't tell you how offensive that is. Or it's like, and my answer is always like, born like this, boring. You know, it's like a boring answer. Like the obsession of the explanation of everything about the way I look. I don't know. I've really thought about this because I don't want any labels. The one I grew up with was physically challenged because I am physically challenged. I told you the other day, putting something in my freezer, ended up stacking up some stools and I fell and I'm bruised from all my left side. That is a physically challenged day. That one feels the least offensive because it's not really talking about my appearance or what I can do. It just means that life is challenging, which it is, because this world wasn't built for someone like me. But I don't know. I just like to be called Talli.
Well, this is such an interesting aspect that we're diving into, because I think unless you're born, frankly, a white male.
Able-bodied white male.
Yeah, an able-bodied white male, correct. Then you are, every other aspect invites some kind of labeling.
And labels, what I always remember as a kid, like, this label means this label means this, you know, and it's like, even when people are vegetarian or whatever, and it's like, I'm pretty much vegetarian, but once in a while but I don't even have to explain myself. Shouldn't have to explain myself what I put in my body. No, I thought you were vegetarian, and it's like, well, I want to eat fish today. You know?
Well, this is fascinating because I think it goes to the larger issues, but we all also deal with these small biases every day and we don't even notice them. And I imagine, Karen, this is something that you've experienced in emergency services. You were an ICU nurse before you joined the fire service, so probably certain strata in healthcare existed as well. So, you know, it's pervasive. And were there moments when you kind of had your own awakening where you thought, oh,
yeah,
and still see it these days?
Yeah, you know, you're right. I went from a female dominated profession into a male dominated profession. And boy, if I had known then what I knew now, I may have rethought it. You know, through my career, there's been times where, you know, no matter how hard you keep working and keep your head down and do all the right things, there's always going to be someone out there that is going to try to bring you down. And, you know, I did experience that when I was in Hamilton. And I'll tell you, it's a quick story, but there was a guy that I could probably count on one hand how long I'd known him or interacted with him. And before he was retiring, he put together this bitch book, and the bitch book was on particular people in the organization that he didn't like for whatever reason. Anyway, like I said, I didn't really know him, but he took it upon himself to out me in a very derogatory way. And this, of course, this got released. It was like on a Friday, and I can remember being called downtown, and I was apprised of what this guy had done. And then, I mean, emailed it across the city of Hamilton. I didn't know what to do in many respects, because my life was very private. And, you know, yeah, if I want to tell someone I'm a lesbian, that's up to me. But this person completely took that right away from me. And it took all my might to go back into work on the Monday. I didn't want to go back to work. And so when I did go back into work, what I did what happened right out of the gate were all these people just came to me and said, that guy's an idiot. And we like you, we respect you, you work hard. And that what this person has said has absolutely no bearing on you and how you're valued here. So out of something really terrible came something really positive. And to that day, since then, I've just been more transparent about who I am. And it probably happier, but it didn't happen right away. You know, you get very hurt when people use terminology that is supposed to describe you in one way or the other, but it's just slanderous and mean-spirited. So it's, I learned a lot in that period of time, and what I didn't want to be like. And I really wanted to live my life the way I was meant to live my life, by adopting my kids and living with my partner and all those other things. It doesn't, being a lesbian doesn't define you. I think all the other parts in your life define you. And, but that was one time in my career that something negative really, really made me rethink, what did I belong?
Well, first of all, thanks on behalf of everyone here for sharing that. We can only imagine what that must have been like. And, you know, it brings to mind this idea of resilience in life. And how did you summon that will to go on? I'm putting that to all three of you. We'll start with Karen based on her story, but it's an interesting thing because, you know, what we're talking about are things that kind of get us off course at times. And how do we recalibrate? How do we persevere?
I would say the biggest thing that makes me resilient is my family. I come from a very, very close family, siblings. I'm one of 7, big Irish family, and 2 sets of twins, and we're all very close. You know, we all, I think for me, I can't even speak today. Resiliency is about what you experience and what you feel, and knowing that you can fall and fall down, but you just manage to keep going. And that's kind of the way that I've always looked at things, as does so many of my siblings. And we're all very close, and we're all there for one another when and if the time comes. So that's just been something that was taught to me from my parents that worked hard their entire lives to do the very best for us. So yeah, I think that's a trait that I inherited from them.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about 2 sets of twins, just like on that for a minute, but
yeah, well, I'm right in the middle, which explains a lot. So my mom, so yeah, I have a set of twins below me and above me. So yeah,
wow.
I am the real true middle child.
Perfect. Now, Layne, what about you and resilience?
Yeah, I, like many people, have lived through trauma after difficulty in my life. I am no different than any other human being. But for me, I've definitely proven to myself that I'm able to rise above. I'm able to really get through the hard stuff. And of course, I think one of the biggest things is you need to be able to ask for help. Whether that's professional help, whether that's, finding your tribe that is going to hold you up and help you through. So, I call these moments in our lives where we have these big things happen, like upheavals, and we've all had them. And so you're going on, everything's great, and then crash, something happens. But for me, getting to the top of that mountain, coming out of the other side and learning from that experience, some of the choices that I made during the lowest times of my life helped me rise above and find that fortitude, that strength that I needed to say, you know what, no matter what comes my way, I am going to get through. I've got an amazing partner who loves me. I have children who are amazing. Their partners are wonderful. My family and my chosen family and my tribe and my community that loves me and cares about me. And you know what? As I head into my 60th year of living, you know what? I'm good. I'm comfortable, and I know that there's going to be more that's going to come my way, but I feel truly empowered by all these life experiences over the last 60 years that I can do it. I can do anything I set my mind to, and nothing is insurmountable.
Yeah. Oh, so good. You guys are preach, right? So Talli, what about you and resilience? I think there's probably been, like, day to day, I would imagine, more challenges for you, more need to be resilient and figure things out. But how would you characterize, your perseverance and what gave it to you?
Yeah, I'm definitely very, very resilient. Just from being this way my whole life, obviously people making fun of me and people, not looking at me in a positive way has just given me tough skin. It just, as a kid, I remember my siblings saying, take a picture, it lasts longer. I always had people kind of having my back, and then I started having my own back. And I think also, like Layne was saying, her tribe and their tribe, and the punk community really helped me be myself. I don't know if anyone knows, but my favorite band wrote a song about me when I was 20, and it kind of gave me this fame all over the world, like instant fame. And wherever I went, it was just like, so the song's called She's Nubs. So my nickname was instantly Nubs, and I had no choice in the matter. But it's my favorite band, so who cares? So wherever I would go, it would be like, Nubs, or, oh my goodness, are you Nubs? And it was like, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And it was this positive thing. And the song is kind of, non-punks will look at it and be like, oh my gosh, those lyrics. But really what it means is she may not have any arms and she may not be able to do this or that, but she comes to punk shows and she has an awesome time. That's all that matters. And because it actually paints me, even like it says I have no legs and things like that. It paints me even differently than I am. But people love me for who I am. All these punks all over the world. And that gave me even more confidence than I was already having, because I was only 21 when that came out, and I only started being myself when I was 19, a little bit. So that gave me a jump start, because people all over the world were loving me for who I am, and I wasn't even loving myself yet 100%, Mm-hmm. So definitely the punk community. Like tonight I'm going to see the Real Mackenzies, and I'm singing on stage with them because they want me to, and do I have confidence? Yeah, like I'm just thinking, I'm singing with one of the biggest punk bands in Canada, and yeah, definitely community helps. And my friends, of course, my family, my mom raised me to be a confident, strong person who, like, with the belief that I could do anything I set my mind to. And I've always had that in my mind, even when it's challenging. And another thing I thought of as well, about that horrible story with the list of I can't even, so disgusting. I'm so sorry that happened to you. For me, it's cyberbullying. That I get cyberbullied all the time, and my photos are taken from me and put on these different websites with different horrible titles like weird mutant midget or ugly bowling midget. That's one where I was bowling in Vegas. And as much as I'm confident, it was hard to see that stuff at the beginning. It was like pages and pages of slander, mean, horrible things people were saying about me, like about my appearance. What is it was the most common one. And I'm sure you've all gotten the it one. Like, what is it? It's like human being. Like, I don't even understand that question. And at first I would love to tell you, it didn't bother me. Those people don't know me, but it did. It was like a car crash. I couldn't help but sit there and read the comments and feel sorry for myself. And after about the third or fourth time, my brain just did a thing. And I was like, I'm not a victim. I have never been a victim. I am not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to use what I do is I take negative situations and I turn them into positive ones, and I use them as an opportunity. And I went on the news. I went to CBC and I was like, this is not okay. And it was a lot of big, like a couple of big pages that had me at that moment. So I was kind of making a statement. I was like, this is not okay. There are people in these photos. And I had to kind of fight what it was doing to me. It was making me feel bad about who I am, even though I love who I am. And to this day, if I get cyberbullied, it sucks. I can't just let it slide. All these people talking crap about the way I look. Most of the time there's my fans on there as well going, that's Nubs, she's awesome. So I am lucky that I have people all over the world standing up for me, but it definitely sucks.
Oh, does it ever? I think, you've highlighted and kind of landed in an area that I think we're curious about. And it's the idea of community supporting and lifting you up, and which is so critical, but also what occurs to me is the idea of social media, how it can be a positive community or a negative one. And I think, that's something that I'm not sure I'd want to be 14 right now.
Oh gosh.
With the social media. And, but I'm curious, Layne, how you found, community, you mentioned it yourself, but also social community, positive and negative. How has that kind of moved you through addressing any bias and just on your path in life in general?
Well, are you talking specifically social media?
Yeah.
Or,
for now,
yes,
let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. Okay,
that's great. So it's interesting. I filter everything that I consume. I have to. And I don't get caught up in the whirlwind of the negativity. I just don't go to the drama. If I feel strongly about, making a stand on something, I'm going to think about what this is about, right? And how does this affect me, and how I can somehow use that for the greater good. But getting caught in a swirling negative space, I simply don't go there. I look at what does Layne need? And if we're talking about Layne the individual, that might be slightly different than Layne the auctionista from the business side. And I think we keep that social media piece very, very separated. But truly, as I said, I filter out a lot of that. I've got a lot more important things, a lot more meaningful things that I need to be doing than watching what's happening with Ye and the Kardashians. Just meaningless to me. I don't know. It's like, yeah, okay. You just get into that. Yeah. And I think when I say I don't do drama, I don't, because I've had so much of it in my life. Harassment, intimidation, negative responses. I've had to shield and work through so much of that, and to still maintain my best mental health so that I can be the happiest little 4-year-old, 60-year-old that I possibly can be. So I think that's why I literally shield myself from that stuff.
Good approach. Good approach. What about you, Karen? Because you're a public figure in representing the fire service, but you're also a
Well,
person.
it's tough. There's a fine line sometimes where things can make you personally upset, but you have to sort of subscribe to, well, what would my professional self say? And it doesn't make it 100% right, but yeah, I mean, I am in a position where, you know, I have to be mindful of the things that I do comment on social media. And I think sometimes you know, with the pandemic, you know, the teachers and the stress on nurses and things like that, I would take to Twitter if whoever I was following would have opinions that I felt very close to. You know, but again, I had to kind of pull back the reins a little bit because it's very easy to get onto your own soapbox, and that messaging can be interpreted not as Karen Roche, but as Karen Roche, the Burlington Fire Chief. So, you know, the advice given to me was just be mindful of what it is that you're saying. But that being said, I completely agree with Layne. You know, the social media aspect is, it's almost debilitating in many respects. Like I've got 3 boys, and they're not used to the upbringing that we had, where we were outside until the street lights came on, and you know, we didn't know how to be by ourselves. Everything is about social media, and I think it makes them very emotionally fragile. And you know, I've always said that when I retire, I could see myself living somewhere off the grid with my own power supply and all these other great things, and for the purposes of being able to live simpler. And with the social media and stuff like that, that's not simple at all.
Agreed. And you mentioned advice, so I'm just going to come back to that in a second. But I think it's also social media and just communication and community in general can also be quite a positive tool. But like any tool, when used properly and for good, I guess, is really the thing. And I'm sure, like Talli, your brand is your person, really. And so I think you've probably, among our panelists, found social media to be hurtful, like you mentioned, but also a tool in building your profile and your business.
And a tool to genuinely help people. Like during the pandemic, people came to my profile for that positive boost. Yeah. It was a lot of pressure, to be honest. But I think I have the amount of followers I have because my authentic positive self. And I am real though. If I'm having a day, I tell them I'm having a day, you know, I'm like, sorry, I haven't posted. Stuff is getting weird over here, you know, but I think I'm genuinely helping people. People reach out to me like, hey, I'm feeling really low, blah, blah, blah. Again, a lot of pressure. Sometimes I'm like, you know, they say things about ending their life. That's a little bit scary for me because I don't know them and I'm far away, but it's a pretty amazing feeling that they come to me and they're looking to me for that positivity. So, you know, again, I have that community. People, I don't engage, just like Layne, I don't engage in the negativity on social media. I don't do it. I'm like, if it's a teachable moment, maybe I will, but if it's not, swipe, delete, block, goodbye. I don't need it. And I do that in my life too. Like any toxic people, you meet any of my friends, I have only the best people surrounding me. And that's how we should live. Why have toxic people bringing us down? And I take that for social media too. And I am very lucky. My community in social media is for the most part positive and similar minded because of the punk community. But there's always that one person that has to bring you down, and I don't let it happen. It's like, nope, it's so easy. As much as it's easy for them to post it and be anonymous or whatever, it's so easy for me to swipe, delete. It's gone.
Yeah.
Because I have the power on my own social media, you know, my own Instagram, my own Facebook. I can do what I want with it.
Exactly. And I think, you know, that leads us quite neatly to the idea as we round our corner towards our question period, I think, is this idea of the best advice you've ever received on your journey. I know there's a lot there, but what would be your response to that? The best advice you've ever received, particularly in the scope of our discussion today? Karen.
I would say always remember your last name. Don't try to be better than anyone else, but be better than you used to be. That's my best advice.
Nice. Layne, you're laughing uproariously. What's going on there?
Because the best advice I ever received was, Layne, you should probably marry a woman.
Oh. Well, it sets you on a path, right, of happiness?
Yeah, it did. It did, to a beautiful thing, and finding who I was and having somebody who stood beside me and allow me to just explore that and, you know, help me find my way. So yeah, that's why I'm chuckling to myself. It's as simple as that.
Karen.
If I can add to Lainey's point earlier about how, you know, you're in your 60th year and it makes you reflect on your life. I always say that when I was in my 20s and in my 30s, I couldn't be more different than the person I was in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s. And I too am in my 60th year. And, you know, when I look back, it's like, it was because of those bad experiences or the not so great experiences that do make you the person that you are. And I make no explanations, you know, things that happened 30, 40 years ago with people, you know, that's in the past for a reason. But it has shaped the person that you are today, for sure.
Right. That's great. Yeah. I mean, I would hate to think that we're judged on things that we did when we were 15 and 16. Right?
Yeah.
So, and
It
Talli,
has made you who you are, though.
Yeah.
Nobody's judging, but it is part of that.
that's true. What about you, Talli? Best advice?
I'm not usually stumped on a question. I'm pretty pro at this, but I'm usually the one giving advice. I'm sure, like my mom did raise me and I was adopted. So she raised me to be this, you know, this person who doesn't take any, can we swear on this? I keep thinking, I'm like, can we say the SH word or not? I don't know. I say no.
I think, yes, let's say.
Yeah, don't take any shit. So I've always kind of had that in my mind, like not to take any shit from people. And I think the thing that my advice, the one that I give out to people is just embracing what makes you, you, because no one else is you. And, you know, embracing your differences and letting them sparkle, you know, because I've embraced who I am and this is what you get. And people love it. And same with everyone else on this panel. We're embracing who we are. We're not just kind of trying to hide. And, you know, I used to wear baggy clothes to cover my body till I was 19 years old, you know, and because I just wanted to hide. And now I'm trying to embrace really who I am and again, show the world that I love who I am. And I think we all have something that we think makes us stand out or makes us different. And if everyone embraced that, I think the world would be a super magical place.
Let's hear it for super magical, boy. So one last kind of lightning round question for each of you, and then we're going to jump to some questions from the audience. So what is you've got a choice, actually. You can answer what's your favorite word or what's your biggest hope moving forward as we learn more, do more, address more in this bias, breaking down barriers kind of landscape that we're trying to navigate these days. So favorite word or your biggest hope for right now. And Layne.
Great. I'm going to go with biggest hope because I have two. I hope that for all LGBTQ2I plus folks, that they can, all of us around the world, that they can experience freedom, justice, and protection. You know, we're sitting here in Canada We're sitting here in Halton region, Hamilton, Wentworth, from, you know, this beautiful country. But right now, as we are speaking, there are folks around the world that are isolated, that are violated, that are literally losing their lives because they just want to live as who they are. That is not okay. You know, we all have the right to feel safe, to be healthy, to have access to healthcare. I'm thinking about my trans brothers and sisters around that, and to live our true lives. And the last thing I really hope for, and I know that everybody that's on with us today is here for a reason. They're here because they care about the issue. They are here because they want to learn more. And I'm talking to you folks right now. Thank you for being with us. And I hope that you can work towards being the best ally that you can be for us. Educate yourselves. You know, if you are an owner of a company, if you're an HR person, if you know, you have influence among your coworkers, start using those pronouns. Establish some of those basic things that includes everybody in your workplace. And I want you to, I'm going to leave you with this. Sometimes you have to stop thinking with your head and think with your heart.
Mm. Oh, thank you, Layne. Thank you. Talli, word or hope?
I think hope, because I'm thinking about what I just said, and it's a bit privilege of me to say, embrace your differences and let them sparkle, because I live in a country where I can do that and it's not unsafe for me, or I don't feel it is. And my hope is that everyone on this planet one day can do that without feeling unsafe, or they're going to be ostracized or bullied, because, you know, we're very lucky to live in a place where being ourselves, not always, but, you know, we can get by in being who we want to be, and not everyone has that privilege. So I really hope that that is a reality one day soon.
Thank you, Talli. Karen, word or hope?
We're going to go with hope, because I think that we're kind of, society's at a bit of a crossroads right now. I think that there is a lot of good in this world. However, it's worth fighting for. To many, you know, in context, I think that there's just so much happening, and not good things. I mean, you just look around the world, it's like you can easily get very depressed about the things that are happening, the 2 years of pandemic, all of those impacts on so many people. And for me, it's when you see good things happening, they're like small little glimmers. When you hear the news and everything is so dire and desperate, it can have that negative impact on you, where you're feeling desperate about all these things. Yeah. That's why I'm hopeful that, you know, hopefully one day, you know, people will just set aside their differences. I know it's very pie in the sky, but it is worth fighting for, to be able to have happiness and for people to live their lives as they would love to live them, and not feel, you know, oppressed and, you know, unhappy. It's just, I think we can do better.
Oh, so good.
I have one more little small tidbit. Thinking about the rest of the world, differences are what is dividing a lot of people. So also seeing how, you know, the goodness people that are different from you have, and what similarities you have with someone who may seem really different from you, because that is definitely a thing if you really think about it.
It's true. I mean, we're more alike than we are different in really fundamental ways. It's just very easy to forget that, I think, at times. You're right. Absolutely right. Okay. Amazing. Now, we've got a couple of great questions from the those in attendance. So I'll start with those. And so folks who are with us today, if you do have questions, pop them into the chat. We've got some great support moderating them. We'll make sure we get through all of them. Okay, so we'll start with this one. So this is really interesting. It's posing the idea that do we think labels help people feel connected to a group and foster a sense of belonging, or do they do more harm? Interesting, right?
Can I
So
answer that?
who would like to start with that?
I have something to say about that. I think it all depends on the label and how that person relates to it. Because I call myself a punk, and that is a proud label that I like, because that community embraced me with open arms. But a lot of the other labels people want to put on me don't feel as positive. So I think it all depends on the person and how that label makes them feel.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, right? I mean, there could be a negative connotation, a perception, a positive connotation, but I think there's a divide right down the line. And I think if it comes from a hurtful place, from a disparaging place, then obviously I mean, I would pick up on that, and I would sense that. But I definitely feel that, adding, including labels can bring people together, right? Like-mindedness, a connection in some way, right? So I think it's definitely does and accomplishes both.
And asking that person, what label? Because people ask me often, and I'm like, just call me Talli. What label? Disabled, handicapped? I'm like, Talli. Don't call me any of those things.
Yeah.
And then they don't. I'm like, okay.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Ask.
And I think we're reluctant to ask sometimes because we feel embarrassed, because we should know. But I think an authentic request to know better and do better is probably received in a very positive way, I would imagine and hope. And Karen, you're, working in a sort of paramilitary based organization. Labels are not only expected, but they're part of the service and the establishing order and who's who. So, where do you land on the label question?
I'm not a fan of labels. I think that it predisposes us to all the other kind of crap, so to speak. I try not to, being a fire chief, I think there's a lot of verbiage out there, the type of person you should be, the type of leader that you should be. For my own mind is that I just try to be me. And what I mean by that is being approachable and caring about our staff and making sure that people are coming to work and that they're everything is good with them, which is not traditional by any stretch. Maybe it's the nurse in me, but it just always had that sort of different sort of therapeutic effect on staff in that, my door is always open, partially open, but I'm never not available. And I just think that just brings about some subtle changes in how, how I do my job here. And I don't think I would ever do it any different, because this is, with me, this is what you see is what you get. And I think labels can have a very negative impact.
Great. So building on that idea, another great question we've had is this notion of, do you feel empowered by educating people about breaking biases, or exhausted? Fascinating.
Empowered.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fills my cup. It fills me with all the good chemicals. I feel that, because when you can really speak openly, when you're at that point in your journey that you can share, and both Talli and Karen have shared today, and I think that is courageous, but it also speaks to where they are in their life journey. So when an individual gets to that place where they are like, I have worked through the trauma, I have worked through all these bits, and now I am here where I can share and inspire others, encourage others. And, I think as human beings, when we share our traumas, our triumphs, our tribulations, all of that, it connects us. And we then understand, you know what, we don't stand here in this box alone. We are not alone. So I think that, you know, getting to that place for me has been very rewarding indeed.
How about you, Talli?
I agree with everything Layne just said. Like, yeah, I'm definitely empowered. I've been educating people my whole life, like since I could talk, I think. And I don't know. I know, I understand a lot of people are like, it's not my job, do the work, but I've just always been educating people. And I think that we're making the world a better place. People don't know. Some people come from a good place. They just don't know. They're ignorant. And, you know, the fact that I go on stage and I share my story with people, I think it is empowering for me. And I am helping people, and I'm helping people understand that's not okay to judge people by the way they look, you know, and some people are just brought up that way. It's normal. Well, we all were, you know, the girl in the purple top. It's like, I'm not a girl. Do you know what I mean? Like, we do that. We've always done it. And we still do it. It's almost hard. I've always been the girl with the no arms and pink hair. I even say it. I call, hi, I came in today. I'm the girl with no arms and pink hair. If I am the girl with no arms and pink hair, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but at the same time, I don't know, it's funny to me. I've always been described the way I look, and it's a really hard thing to stop doing.
And I'm just going to interject one thought that comes into my mind. For me, it's not just about being on a panel and being invited to speak and do a keynote. In the work that I do every day, you know, I'm in front of hundreds and thousands of people every year, and you know, the way that I present myself, and because I'm so comfortable in my skin right now, I'm sure that I'm exuding confidence and you know, and the professionalism. And I'm hoping that all the queers in the audience and all the marginalized folks and anybody who doesn't believe that they can't achieve something because there is some barrier, I hope just by me being on stage, being completely myself, wearing a tuxedo with my hair shaved the way it is, somebody might say, I can do it too. Layne got there. And, you know, broke the stereotype. Karen talked about that as well in her profession. And just that visibility, you know, of that is very important as well.
I feel the exact same way about that.
Great. So we've got another question. We love participation here at our Hamilton Women's Place group panel. So this is a question about visibility from a fellow queer woman, is how it reads. Can you or anyone on the panel comment on individual responsibility to be the voice in meetings, work settings, in professional settings? How can we embrace the knowledge we have gained through lived experience versus possibly being tokenized? That is good. Karen, do you want to start with that? We'll start with you.
I think that, you know, it's about being very genuine in your day-to-day actions with staff. And, you know, last year was the first year about introducing, you know, a pride truck ever in the fire service in Burlington, right? So, and that became a bit of an evolution. You know, me coming here, staff know that I'm married to my partner, and I have 3 boys that we adopted, and we are, you know, very much part of the community, and they go to school here and all these other great things. Whereas I probably would have hidden that part a long time ago. This is it. This is who I am. Love my family, and I love being here and being able to make the workplace a whole lot different than it was when I came into it. And it's about being, you know, having not tough conversations, just having conversations. You know, I have no problem going downstairs and chatting with the staff and, you know, seeing what's going on in their lives and being there for them no matter what's going on. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
That's
my God.
It's all good.
Yeah, no, that's what sticky notes are for.
Well, I'm sure it'll occur to you, but why don't Layne, you pick it up? And because I know you've got a response to that particular question.
Well, we're talking about being in meetings and how do we present ourselves. And, we need to present ourselves as the humans that we are. And for me, that is about kindness. Be kind, be generous, be respectful. All of these things that, aid in connecting with other human beings, right? So I don't actually think about going in and thinking, okay, I maybe did a few years ago, but one of the things that I definitely say when I'm at an event, and it's an icebreaker, because you know what, laughter can break down some barriers, right? So I would go up on stage, maybe this is the first time I've done this event, and I just put it right out there, and I say, so I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, wow, Layne is the love child of Katie Lang and Elvis. And they just all break up laughing. We get it all out. And then it just starts from there. So for me, I want to make a connection with my audience, right? Whether I'm in a meeting with clients, whether I'm doing an event, just break it down. And I think for me also, I just want to touch on misgendering, because this is it's a huge issue, and I experience that every single day. So to my friends out there, the 58 of you that are watching, just a little bit of advice. If you accidentally use the wrong pronoun when identifying someone, please correct yourself in front of that person. Correct yourself in front of that person and begin to use the correct pronoun. Because, everyone makes mistakes. I have made that mistake earlier on in my life, because when you correct yourself, you are making what you're doing is you're making it visible that you respect to use someone's pronouns correctly, right? So if you goof, just say, I goofed. And here's what I always say. If you can't remember my pronoun, just be Beyonce and say my name. Just call me Layne.
Oh, God. Talli, do you employ a similar approach when you're doing presentations?
Can you ask the question again? I had a water emergency. It was like my throat was like felt fire. So I heard it, but.
No question. So it's the idea about being the voice in meetings, work settings, that kind of thing, sort of looking at how do you embrace the knowledge that you've gained through lived experience without being tokenized, was the terminology in the question.
So I did hear the question. I don't think I really get it though.
Well, I think it's the question is about visibility. Are you, how do you manage being maybe the one who has to represent, kind of being unique in.
I just always have been though. It doesn't take effort for me.
Yeah.
It's just natural for me. So that's why I have a hard time answering this question, because I am always that person. I'm an extrovert. I love sharing my story. I love opening people's minds and eyes and hearts. And it's kind of what I was put on this planet to do. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. We've got, the questions are coming in. So this is great. Here's a compliment first. This question is saying, none of you look 60. Well, Talli is far from it. So that's why she doesn't. But that's a good compliment. The other three of us on the screen at the moment are in the neighborhood of 60. That's for darn sure. Self-admitted. There we are. And so that's the compliment phase of the question. But in the past, here's the meaty stuff. In the past, when or if you found yourself in a dark place, what were some things that helped you out of it? Did you find that there were enough resources available to you? Karen, this might be one that you can kind of comment
Yeah,
on,
that's a
given your
good
previous
question.
commentary?
Yeah, I think when that whole thing happened for me, it was really, when I reflect back on it, it was really about one person who was very mean-spirited and felt compelled to say a whole lot of negative things about a whole lot of other people, not just myself. But it did catapult me into a time, into a mindset where I was afraid to go back to work. And at that time I was an assistant deputy. But what held true was the enormous amount of support that I received from firefighters, captains, officers, the senior management team, that really, reinforced my sentiment that, it does get better, and that, don't let one person's actions define the actions of everybody else, because that's not the way that it is. And I think through that, I remember talking to my mom, and my mom was always I'd say my biggest supporter. And I would just go talk to my mom. My mom's now since passed, which is bad in that sense, because I would talk to her about everything, but certainly my siblings, I talked to them from, I think, the Friday night right through to the Sunday night at different times, to validate, am I, is what I'm feeling, is this going to impede me from going back to work? Do I go back to work? But if I don't go back to work, what am I going to do? So it was all these different sort of challenging thoughts, but, I did go back into work, and it's like I said, the resolve was for me that I went back to work, and I never looked back since then. And I think in retrospect, that event at that point in time in my life was at a time where, it was a pinnacle point for me to change sort of how I viewed myself, being proud of who I was, being open about who I was. I mean, my family and friends were always very supportive of my life, of my marriage, of my whole being. And, my mom and dad, when they emigrated here, they were always just well ahead of the curve, I think, in terms of the type of people they were and how accepting they were. So, the whole family dynamic carried me through this event. But so did the people at work that, reached out to me and made a point of saying, we like you, this person doesn't speak for you. And that was a changing piece for me in Hamilton. And, to this day, that department has just taken off. It's become so much more progressive in that, in the time since then. But boy, that was a time for me that I thought I wasn't going to get through it.
Well, thank you so much for that, Karen.
You're welcome.
Talli,
Can you repeat the question again?
what
So
got
long
you through a dark?
Yes, I had an answer ready, and then I forgot what the question was because
Okay.
I was engaged in the stories. For me, I think my superpower is positivity. I usually look for the positive in every situation. I visualize the light at the end of the tunnel. That's how I've always gotten through everything. If I'm having a rough day, I think about the light at the end of the tunnel, which is something positive coming up maybe on a different day. So I'm going to California on Friday. I'm not, I wish I was.
Wow.
And I look forward to that. Or in an hour, I'm going to see this amazing person and I'm really excited. So I look for the light at the end of the tunnel or a positive in the situation and try and kind of move out of the negative into the positive. And it's just kind of it's a superpower I have. I just do it.
It's a reflex at this point.
Yeah, it is. It is a reflex at this point.
Yeah. Great. I love that. Your positivity reflex. Layne.
So no one has to suffer alone, ever. And there are so many supports and services out there. There are so many amazing charitable organizations where you can find support for what you may be going through in your life. You know, and when I've hit some of my real lows in my life, you know, I've you know, reached out to my doctor, and, you know, we've found ways to get the support that I needed. You know, the other thing is that when we struggle, you know, we sometimes feel like, you know, I can't share this with anybody, or, you know, Karen is very fortunate that she has a family that's so tight like that, and mine is very supportive of me as well. But I have found that during some of the dark times of 2020, I reached out to folks that I don't think that I've ever really had meaningful conversations with before. And that really opened up my world, and it opened up my heart. And it connected me to people that I normally wouldn't have connected with. And the reason we connected is we had some shared experiences in the event world or whatever. And so, you know, I think that there are times in our lives when family is great. There's times in our lives when professional help is most suitable. But the main thing that, you know, I always think to myself too, is I can't control anybody else other than myself. Mm-hmm. I cannot control what they think of me. I cannot control what they're going to say to me. I can't control any of that. But I can control who I am, how I perceive the world, how I want to be in the world, how I want to treat others. So I really focus it back on myself and say, okay, you're just that 4-year-old kid. You get out on that stage and you just do Layne. You know, I had a transformational moment. I several years ago, you know, I really came to this point in my life. I had made some changes, and I cut up the cue cards, and I just said, you know what, I'm going on stage and I'm just going to be myself. And when that happened, I had a few people say, something's different about you. And it was really truthful, because I felt like I was flying. It was a completely different experience. I just let everything else go. And I, you know, doesn't matter who was in the audience. I was just not focused on that. I was just focused on myself, being myself. So.
Love that. And it's the perfect segue to our last question, that we have time for one more question. And it is this. Talli mentioned that she will comment if she's presented with a teachable moment in a negative situation. That's one of your coping strategies and life lessons. Can any of you share a situation that was a teachable moment with someone you encountered being negative towards you? I think we heard the great one from Karen for sure. Layne, you just mentioned one in terms of your shift in attitude, but any others that come to mind? Talli, we'll start with you since you were the one cited in the question. If you have one, and it's okay to say, you know, come back to me later.
I think I have teachable moments every day. People saying things like, are you a thalidomide baby? Telling them how horrible that is a question. Like, you know, people, just the things people saying to me, I always speak back now and tell them how inappropriate it is to say that or to ask these questions. So I don't think I have a specific one. I might think of something though, but just putting people in their place and not in a negative way, just, you know, letting them know that, that it's not okay. And another thing that came to mind is like people sharing memes, you know, online of me and my photo, that someone has made my photo into a GIF or a meme or something, and telling them like, that is me in that photo. Do you know, you just shared something so derogatory, you know, and a friend of mine saw one and she was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, can you ask that person to take it down? And just, people don't realize they're so quick to share and like and online. And I always say to people, like, when you see a meme or a GIF, tacos, burritos, kittens, pizza, fine. But you see a person in that photo, a human being, think about, will they think this is funny? Because they probably won't. And if you don't think that person in that photo is going to think it's funny, then don't share it.
Great advice. Karen, any further thoughts on that theme?
Yeah, I think the teachable moments that I can reflect on have to do with my kids, and the fact that, you know, they're adopted, they're siblings, and they outnumber the two of us because it's three. But, you know, I have tried to instill in them as best as I can. And it's been a work in progress that, you know, families can become in various shapes and forms, and you have two moms, and, you know, when that kid says something to you on the playground, I want them to say something very not derogatory back. I want them to say, well, my mom is the fire chief, and, you know, like that kind of thing. And it's funny because you don't realize that you're actually getting through until you kind of hear them having those conversations with their friends or whatever. And then I know that I've kind of done my good job, because, you know, you want them, you know, if nothing else, I just hope that they approach life the same way, and that they are respectful, and they are compassionate and empathetic, and that they're there for people, and they don't subscribe to language on the school ground that is malicious and derogatory. It has no place. So that's my teachable moment. That comes back every once in a while, and I reinforce it. But so far, so good.
That's great.
I have I was just going to say, I have a similar scenario. My stepkids, we don't live together anymore, but we lived together for almost 10 years. And, you know, their kids on their playground would say, your mom has no arms. Whoa, your mom's so little, you know, stuff like that. And they go so quick back. She makes the best pizza. She makes the best shepherd's pie, you know, like it doesn't faze them. And it always makes me feel like I worked really hard on those kids because they weren't mine from the beginning. So it was kind of like, you know, teaching them, like, when I first was in their lives, like, come and help set the table. It's like, oh, you need help because you don't have any arms? No, it's because you're part of this family, and everyone in this family contributes, you know? So it was very important for me to teach them that I've lived on my own for this many years. I don't need your help because I don't have any arms. It's called, this is a family. And it's just cool when other kids say it to them. And, you know, I wasn't their mom from beginning. I was only their mom since they were little. So, or their stepmom. So it's cool to hear them, like, stand up for me, you know, and not say anything weird. It's always the shepherd's pie, which is so weird because I make better things than the shepherd's pie. And it's always, he makes the best shepherd's pie. And I'm always like, what about my homemade pizza and, like, bread? But
you can't argue with comfort food, Talli. That's it.
I know. They love the shepherd's pie. I actually made shepherd's. I don't make it for myself, but I made it the other day and sent them a photo, and, well, they were upset, but.
Okay, Layne.
Yeah, let me just say that my ongoing saga is the bathroom saga. It happens all the time. It has never ceased to happen. It's happened when I've traveled around the world. It happens here in Hamilton, where I live, everywhere I go. And the teachable moment is, I know which bathroom I belong in. I know which bathroom I'm supposed to be in. So it's, again, you know, gender identity, you know, people know where they belong. So, you know, I can't believe it still happens, but it happens. It's an ongoing thing. So I used to just run away from it, or I used to ask my wife, Sue, please come into the washroom with me to protect me, because there's been some situations, and now I just, I walk in and I belong there, and I just make it that moment and say, you just have yourself a great day.
It's
and
funny.
Don't forget to wash your hands.
I have a washroom saga my whole life too, but it's different. It's literally, can I get into the washroom and can I get on the toilet? That is my whole life. Wherever I go in the world, Hamilton, Toronto, Italy, it's like, I just gotta pee. Like a girl's gotta pee, you know? And the teachable moment in that is people direct me to the accessible washroom. Always the accessible washroom. And guess what? It's not accessible for me. It actually makes my life way harder because the toilet's extra tall. I teach people every day, oh, do you want this toilet? Or they bring me to the I went to Ron Joyce Children's Hospital because I'm getting a socket made for my car. And she took me to the accessible washroom. I was like, oh my God, it's so tall. I was like, is there any normal sized toilets? They're still high for me, and then she's like, oh yeah, there's ones around the corner. Everyone takes me, and it's like accessibles for all. And it's like literally, universal design doesn't exist yet. It's like they're working on it, but I don't know that those toilets, whenever I speak to kids, I always say like, who are the giants peeing in these toilets? And they laugh, but the giants are just you guys, like regular sized people. And the toilets like are up to my chest, and I have to literally walk up the wall to pee. And then I leave, if it's a freshly painted wall, I leave black footprints on the wall. And then the next person's like, what the heck? But yeah, you said bathroom saga. I was like, oh, I'll tell you what, bathroom saga is completely different than you, but it's still a challenge.
It's the same though, right? Yeah.
Well, I think, did I ever expect we would wrap up this session talking about toilet height? I did not. However, it's important stuff because it goes to the heart of what we're talking about, and that is our inherent beliefs and biases, and then those that are thrust upon everyone in our community. So while we're designing that dream universe that Talli mentioned, I just want to close out before I introduce someone special with the special thanks to the panelists for saying, like, you folks have brought the ideas of community and authenticity, caring, kindness, passion, and being teachers to us today, and really helped us understand a very obvious in one hand and a very nuanced in the other. So together, really expanded our thinking on this. And I'm very grateful to have been part of this. And I want to thank you all for being here today. You've done us proud, and you've done yourselves proud. So congratulations. Now, I'm very proud also to introduce Kate Holmes, who is the executive director of the Women's Center of Halton and one of the partners with today's event. So take it away, Kate.
Jane, thank you so much. What a wonderful time we have spent together this afternoon. We are all leaving with so many insightful thoughts and amazing conversations that we must continue. It does not stop here. We can do better in breaking the bias. There's so much more work to be done, and this is just the start of it. I love how Lori says in the chat, we need round 2 of this. This is really just the beginning of some amazing work and conversations we can do together as a society. I really thank you, Jane, for doing such a great job walking us through all of this today, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. And our panelists, I'm not sure exactly how I can thank you for doing this. Words just aren't enough. Your stories are remarkable, and the world is a better place by you guys sharing that with us today. And I hope so many people watch this and that we get more attendees next time we do this together. And thank you to our guests for taking this really valuable time and joining us and being part of something bigger than yourselves today. So we really appreciate that. We will be sending out a survey so that we can get some thoughts from you and some comments from our guests in regards to what we can do next time. That's what this is all about. So thank you so much for everybody for attending today, and let's continue to work together to break the bias.
Right. Thanks so much, Kate, and thanks everyone. We really appreciate you being here. To our wonderful panelists and everyone who made today significant. Let's keep on breaking the bias and helping other people understand who we are and what we're all about, and that we're all here for good. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me. It was an honor.
Thank you.
Molly.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Layne, so much. Karen, such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
That was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of your stories. My goodness.